My mother shoved a silver tray of greasy dinner plates into my arms and whispered, "You came here to clear tables, Hannah, not sit beside your grandmother pretending you're important." The tray struck my ribs hard enough to make one wineglass slide, shatter against the marble floor, and turn 87 faces toward us. I had paid the deposit on that waterfront ballroom after my mother forgot the deadline. I had spent 4 months restoring my grandmother's damaged letters, photographs, and shipyard records for the memory exhibit glowing behind the head table. I had edited messages from relatives across 6 states, designed the printed program, and arranged the antique sailcloth banners hanging from the rafters. My younger brother, who had contributed nothing except a bottle of bourbon and 3 Instagram posts, was seated beside Grandma with his pregnant wife. My place card had quietly disappeared and reappeared near the swinging kitchen doors. 2 years earlier, the same family had accepted $12,000 and weeks of unpaid work from me for my brother's wedding, then cropped me from the photograph captioned, "Everyone who built this family." I looked at the broken glass, at my mother's furious smile, and at the exit 20 feet away. Then my 88-year-old grandmother pushed back her chair, gripped her cane, and slowly stood. My mother's face went white before Grandma said a single word. What happened next did not simply change her birthday dinner. It ended the role I had been performing in my family since childhood. My name is Hannah Pierce. I was 31 years old when this happened, and I lived in Providence, Rhode Island, in a small second-floor apartment above a bakery that began making bread at 4 every morning. I worked as a paper and textile conservator for the Rhode Island Historical Collection Center, where I restored ship logs, handwritten diaries, maps, embroidered flags, water-damaged ledgers, and family documents that had survived fires, floods, attics, careless storage, and generations of people assuming someone else would protect them. Most of my work happened in a temperature-controlled studio with filtered light, magnifying lenses, tiny brushes, Japanese tissue, wheat starch paste, cotton gloves, and patience. A torn document cannot be bullied back together. Old fibers do not respond to force. If you move too quickly, the damage spreads. If you hide the damage beneath something prettier, it eventually returns. My grandmother, Eleanor Pierce, always said that was why conservation suited me. "You know how to sit with broken things without blaming them for breaking," she told me once. My mother said I worked in a basement repairing trash. Her name was Charlotte Pierce Weller, and she lived outside Newport in a renovated colonial with white shutters, hydrangeas arranged like magazine covers, and a kitchen island large enough to host people she did not actually like. She had worked for years as a fundraising director for private schools and cultural nonprofits, which meant she knew how to make wealthy people feel generous while ensuring they noticed exactly who had organized the generosity. Public image was not merely important to my mother. It was the atmosphere she breathed. She remembered which family wore which designer at a wedding, which neighbor's son had entered medical school, who had refinanced a house, who had posted an unflattering vacation photograph, and which personal disaster should be discussed only after confirming everyone already knew. My father, Andrew Pierce, left when I was 12, and my younger brother Caleb was 8. He moved to Connecticut, remarried, and became a polite holiday presence who mailed checks and told us to take care of our mother. Charlotte later married a financial advisor named Stephen Weller, who was not cruel but had perfected the art of looking occupied whenever my mother became cruel. Stephen believed family peace meant nobody speaking loudly at dinner. If someone was being humiliated quietly, he considered the evening successful. Caleb was my mother's favorite before either of us understood favorites existed. He was charming, restless, affectionate, handsome, and emotionally transparent in ways adults found irresistible. When he failed a math test, Mom said he had performance anxiety. When I earned the highest score in my class, she said numbers came naturally to me. When Caleb forgot his lunch, she drove it to school. When I forgot a permission slip, I missed the field trip because consequences taught responsibility. If he left clothes in the washing machine, Mom said he was overwhelmed. If I asked why I had to move them, she said, "You're the organized one. Why turn everything into a competition?" That sentence became the foundation of our family. Caleb needed support. I needed perspective. Caleb's feelings arrived with urgency. Mine became attitude if they remained visible for too long. He was 4 years younger, and my mother used the age difference long after we became adults. You're the older sister. You know better. He looks up to you. You're stronger. Stronger was the word adults used when they wanted me to absorb something without requiring them to feel guilty. I was stronger when Caleb received a new laptop, while mine was repaired with tape because he needed better equipment for school. I was stronger when my mother missed my regional art competition because Caleb had a soccer tournament. I was stronger when he damaged my car, and she asked me not to report it to insurance because his rates might increase. I was stronger when family photographs somehow placed him in the center, and me near the edge holding someone's purse. My grandmother Ellie saw the pattern. She never announced that she favored me in return. That would only have turned love into another contest. She simply treated my reality as real. She owned a narrow 3-story bookstore near Newport Harbor called Pier Pine Books, with creaking floors, built-in shelves, Maritime antiques, a tiny upstairs reading room, and an apartment where she had lived since my grandfather died. The shop had begun as a used book stall in 1968 and slowly expanded into a beloved local place where sailors, historians, tourists, students, retired teachers, and people hiding from rain could lose entire afternoons. Grandma also maintained a private collection of family letters, ship manifests, photographs, account books, journals, and objects connected to the Pierce family's history in Rhode Island. One ancestor had built fishing boats. Another had operated a boarding house near the docks. Grandma preserved everything, though not always properly. Papers lived in boxes. Photographs remained in acidic albums. Letters were tied with fading ribbon. When I was 11, she taught me how to unfold an old document from the edges, instead of pressing the center. Respect begins with how you touch what cannot defend itself, she said. At 20, I entered an architecture program in Boston. I believed I would restore historic buildings and create spaces that remembered who had lived inside them. During my second year, a visiting professor used major elements of my waterfront library concept in a private competition without crediting me. I recognized my drawings in his submission. When I reported it, the school began a slow investigation that treated my pain as an administrative inconvenience. The professor said students often misunderstood the collaborative nature of studio work. Several classmates became distant because nobody wanted conflict with a person who controlled recommendations. I stopped sleeping. I had panic attacks before reviews. My mother's first question was whether I had done anything to make him think the design was available. Her second was whether I could finish the semester quietly rather than damage my reputation. When I withdrew, she told relatives I could not handle pressure. Caleb repeated that version during jokes. Grandma was the only person who asked what happened before deciding what my departure meant. She paid for counseling and invited me to help organize the bookstore archive while I rebuilt my plans. A door closing can still be part of the building, she said. I eventually studied preservation and conservation, then built a career I loved. My mother continued describing it as the safer alternative I had chosen after failing at architecture. Whenever someone praised my work, she said, "Hannah has always preferred being behind the scenes." That was not entirely false. I liked careful work more than public performance. The lie was that privacy meant I wanted invisibility. Families often turn one true trait into permission for a false role. Because I did not fight for the microphone, they decided I belonged in the kitchen. Because I did not post achievements, they decided I had none. Because I could complete difficult tasks, they decided assigning them to me required no gratitude. Caleb became a residential real estate agent in Newport. He was excellent at selling lifestyle. His social pages showed harbor views, restored kitchens, champagne closings, sailboats, summer lawns, and captions about building generational wealth. He changed agencies twice in 4 years and spent more than he earned maintaining the appearance of success. My mother called him ambitious. When I questioned the leased Range Rover or the apartment he could not comfortably afford, she said I resented confidence because my own career was quiet. Caleb married a woman named Leela Hart 2 years before Grandma's birthday. Lila came from a family that owned several dental practices and a summer house near Narragansett. She was attractive, socially polished, and skilled at making exclusion look like aesthetic planning. The wedding began as a one-day ceremony at a vineyard and expanded into a welcome party, ceremony, tented reception, fireworks, shuttle service, Sunday brunch, and photo sessions at 3 locations. My mother promised to help with invitations and logistics, then volunteered my time without asking. "You're good with details," she said. I restored a damaged family Bible they wanted displayed. I designed place cards after the stationer made an error. I reviewed the seating plan, repaired an old lace veil, created a timeline, and negotiated with the venue after Caleb missed a payment deadline. 4 days before the wedding, the floral company threatened to reduce the installation unless $12,000 arrived. Caleb called crying. He said Lila's parents had already contributed more than expected and would begin questioning whether he was financially responsible. My mother said this was not merely a wedding expense. It could affect his marriage before it began. I transferred the money directly to the florist from savings I had been building for a conservation fellowship in Europe. Caleb promised repayment after his next major closing. He never repaid it. At the wedding, I was assigned to oversee the guest book and emergency kit. When immediate family photographs began, I stepped toward Caleb. Lila's coordinator held up one hand. "We're doing the core family first. I'm his sister, then we'll add siblings after the parents." The photograph included Caleb, Lila, Charlotte, Stephen, Lila's parents, Lila's sister, and Lila's brother. I waited with the emergency kit hanging from my wrist. Then the photographer needed the wedding party. Then sunlight changed. Then guests moved toward cocktail hour. The sibling photograph never happened. That evening, Lila posted the core image with the caption, "Every person who carried us here, my $12,000, restored Bible, repaired veil, place cards, timeline, and physical presence remained outside the frame." I commented, "Beautiful day." My mother called before breakfast the following morning. "Why did you write that publicly?" "Because it was beautiful. It looks passive, aggressive when people know you weren't included." "Why wasn't I included?" Lila wanted a clean photograph. Am I visually complicated? "This is exactly why she finds you difficult. You turn every moment into a moral trial." I apologized. Not because I believed I had done something wrong. Because my family had trained me to experience conflict as the greater danger. After the wedding, Caleb contacted me mostly when he needed something. He began messages with, "How's museum life?" or "Hope you're doing well," before asking whether I could review old property records, repair a document for a client, help stage an open house, cover a photographer deposit, or explain why a historical district restriction affected renovations. If I answered the personal question but ignored the request, he sent question marks. If I said no, he asked whether I was still angry about the wedding. My mother told relatives I had become distant after Caleb's marriage because I struggled when family attention shifted. The truth was simpler. I had begun noticing that my role in the family existed almost entirely through labor. Grandma's 88th birthday gave me another opportunity to ignore what I knew. She wanted a modest dinner with close relatives. My mother wanted something elegant because 88 sounded culturally significant, and several of Grandma's longtime customers, community friends, and local historians would attend. Charlotte chose Harbor Lantern Hall, a restored maritime ballroom near Newport Harbor with arched windows, old timber beams, and a terrace facing the water. The rental exceeded Grandma's original budget. My mother said her fundraising committee connections would secure a discount. They did not. I contacted a preservation colleague who served on the venue board and arranged a reduced nonprofit rate because the dinner would include a public history exhibit. My mother promised to send the deposit. 2 days before the deadline, the venue manager called me. No payment had arrived. Charlotte said she had misplaced her checkbook and would handle it the following week. The venue would release the date by 5. I paid the deposit. My mother never reimbursed me. I spent 4 months preparing the memory exhibit. Grandma had lost several boxes during a roof leak years earlier. Water had fused pages together, blurred ink, and damaged photographs. I separated letters, stabilized paper, repaired tears, and digitized images. I restored a photograph of Grandma at 23 standing outside Pier Pine Books during its first summer. She wore a white blouse, dark trousers, and an expression that looked both terrified and defiant. I found letters from Grandpa sent during his naval service. I located the shop's first receipt book, the original painted sign, a newspaper profile from 1975, and photographs of Grandma hosting readings before women in business, received admiration for persistence. I collected voice messages from relatives and customers unable to attend. I edited them into a 20-minute presentation. Nathan Pierce, my cousin and Grandma's godson, helped move equipment and scan documents. Nathan was 34, worked as a public librarian in Boston, and understood family silence because his own mother had spent years smoothing Charlotte's behavior to avoid becoming the next target. He noticed things without requiring me to explain them twice. 3 days before the dinner, my mother texted, "Wear something simple. You'll be moving around." I replied, "I plan to wear a navy dress." She wrote, "That seems ambitious for someone managing setup." I stared at the message. Then another arrived. "Melissa will give the toast. Caleb will sit with Grandma because Lila is pregnant and we want a family-centered table. Your most useful checking details." Melissa was our cousin, married to a surgeon, photographed beautifully, and spoke with enough confidence that my mother interpreted every sentence as leadership. I asked, "Where am I seated?" Charlotte replied, "We'll figure it out at the venue. Don't create stress." The old pattern was already visible. I told myself Grandma's happiness mattered more than my chair. That was the bargain I always made. At the hall, my mother stood near the entrance, wearing a pearl necklace, cream blazer, and the expression she used when greeting donors. She looked at my navy dress. "That is more formal than I expected. It's a birthday dinner. You'll be uncomfortable carrying trays. The venue has staff." Her smile tightened. "Family helps." Caleb arrived in a tailored jacket carrying 1 bottle of bourbon. Lila wore a pale green dress that emphasized her early pregnancy. My mother placed one hand over Lila's stomach for photographs and announced to 3 people that Grandma's first great-grandchild had attended the celebration. Caleb handed me a garment bag containing his jacket from the car and said, "Can you steam this?" It wrinkled. "There's a steamer in the dressing room." "Great." He walked away. I steamed it. Then Mom asked me to fix uneven napkins. Then rearrange place cards because Caleb wanted to sit farther from the speakers. Then carry gift bags. Then check whether the slideshow remote worked. Then move the restored portrait because Melissa thought it blocked her entrance path. Every request reinforced the same instruction. Remain in motion, so nobody had to decide whether I deserved a place. When Grandma arrived, the room changed. She was small, silver-haired, dressed in deep blue, and using a cane carved by my grandfather decades earlier. Her body had become slower, but her attention remained sharp enough to make dishonest people feel exposed. She hugged me and held on. "You restored the photograph, among other things. You paid the hall deposit." I looked at her. "Who told you?" "The venue manager sent me a thank you note." Across the room, my mother watched. "Everyone helped," I said. Grandma pulled back. "You lie badly when protecting people." "It's your birthday." "Exactly. I am old enough to survive the truth." She patted my cheek and moved toward the head table. The chair beside hers had my name card when I checked the previous evening. Now Caleb's card occupied it. Lila sat on his other side. Melissa sat near the microphone. My place card appeared at a narrow table beside the kitchen doors, with 2 caterers who were not actually dining. I asked my mother. She did not lower her voice enough. "The head table is for people participating in the program." "I created the program." "You created materials. Melissa is leading it." "Where am I eating?" "You won't have time to eat properly. The venue always needs family coordination." "They have an event manager." "Hannah, do not make Grandma's birthday about your seating." I looked toward Grandma. She had begun greeting old friends. I swallowed the argument. Dinner began. I reached my chair once before my mother waved me toward the water station. Then she asked me to check the kitchen because the first course seemed delayed. The catering manager looked confused. "We are 4 minutes ahead," I returned. Charlotte sent me back to confirm the lemon tart. Then she asked me to find Steven's reading glasses. Then Caleb wanted his phone charger. Then Melissa needed a printed copy of her toast, though I had emailed it twice. I began understanding that Mom was not solving problems. She was creating enough movement to keep me absent from the room where my work would be seen. From the side hallway, I heard her speaking near the coat room to two friends from her fundraising circle. "Hannah means well," she said. "But she has never understood presentation. She's excellent support staff." One woman replied, "The photographs are extraordinary. She touches up paper in a basement. Let's not turn it into surgery." I thought she studied architecture. My mother laughed. Until criticism became too much. She has always confused sensitivity with principle. Preservation lets her hide from real pressure. At least tonight she can be useful washing dishes. My chest tightened. The architecture wound was 11 years old, and she still brought it out whenever someone might respect what I had built afterward. I stepped backward and struck a metal service cart. My mother turned. For 1 second, guilt crossed her face. Then control covered it. "Good. The kitchen needs help." "No, it doesn't." "Excuse me?" I asked. "They are on schedule." Her eyes narrowed. "Do not contradict me near guests. We're in a hallway. You are always near guests when you embarrass me." That sentence explained my childhood more clearly than any therapy session. I had never been allowed private pain because my reaction might affect her public image. Nathan appeared at the end of the hall. "Hannah, Grandma wants you. The slideshow is starting." Charlotte stepped between us. "She'll come after the first course is cleared. The staff clears it. Family helps family." Nathan looked at the tray in my hands. "Family also lets family sit down. Do not lecture me about my daughter. Then stop treating her like an employee you dislike." My mother's face changed. Two guests passed nearby. She smiled instantly. "Nathan has become very protective." "Someone should." He held out his hand. Not pulling, simply offering. I followed him toward the ballroom. Before we reached the head table, Charlotte grabbed my wrist near the service station and shoved a stack of greasy plates into my arms. "You came here to clear tables, not sit beside your grandmother pretending you're important." One glass slid. It struck the marble floor and shattered. The entire room turned. A server rushed forward. My mother said loudly, "Hannah, please be careful. This is exactly why I asked you to stay near the kitchen." She had rewritten the moment before the glass stopped moving. I placed the tray on the service table. My hands shook. "I'm leaving. Don't be dramatic. You just pushed dishes into my arms in front of everyone. I gave you a task. You assigned me humiliation. You always do this. You turn guidance into abuse, because you cannot tolerate being corrected." The exit looked close enough to touch. I picked up my bag. My mother followed, heels striking the floor. Near the aisle, she caught my elbow. "If you walk out, don't expect invitations to family events again. I am finished managing your sensitivity." The old version of me would have stayed. She would have apologized for the broken glass, completed the slideshow, carried plates, smiled in photographs, and cried alone in the car. Before I could decide whether that woman still existed, Grandma pushed back her chair. The wooden legs scraped across the floor. Conversation stopped. She stood with both hands on her cane. My mother released my elbow. Grandma looked at her daughter. "Give me the microphone, Charlotte." "Mother, sit down. You're tired." "I am tired. That is why we are ending this tonight." Melissa lowered the microphone she had been preparing to use. Nathan took it from the stand and carried it to Grandma. Charlotte stepped closer. "This is unnecessary." Grandma's voice traveled without amplification first. "What is unnecessary is watching my daughter put her hands on my granddaughter at my birthday dinner." A murmur moved through the room. My mother smiled toward the guests. "She is misunderstanding." Hannah was helping. Grandma took the microphone. I am 88 years old. I have lived through widowhood, debt, hurricanes, illness, and a bookstore roof collapsing in February. I can survive an honest family conversation. She looked around the hall. Silence becomes a family disease when people keep calling it peace. Tonight, I am done being polite. My body became still. Grandma pointed toward the restored portrait glowing behind her. Hannah did not touch up a picture. She spent 4 months saving records I neglected for 40 years. She restored letters from my husband that water damage had nearly erased. She repaired photographs of relatives many of you never met. She found the first receipt from Pier and Pine Books, the original city permit, newspaper clippings, family journals, and recordings from people unable to travel. She created this entire exhibit. Heads turned toward me. My mother said, "We all contributed. Hannah also paid the deposit after you missed it." The room shifted. Charlotte's face tightened. That was a private financial matter. Grandma looked at her. So was Hannah's pain, until you announced her place through a microphone. The silence became heavier. Grandma lifted a folder from beside her plate. 2 months ago, Charlotte asked me to reorganize the future of Pier and Pine. She told me Hannah was too emotional to oversee anything involving property, accounts, or family history. She recommended Caleb because he understands business. Caleb sat forward. "Grandma, Mom said you wanted me involved." "Your mother wanted you involved. I thought we discussed turning the upper floors into luxury rentals." "You discussed it. I said I would think." Lila placed one hand over her stomach. Caleb looked at Charlotte. "You said Grandma had agreed in principle." "Not now," my mother whispered. Grandma's eyes sharpened. "Now is exactly when truth becomes useful." She turned toward the guests. Caleb presented a plan to convert the reading room and archive space into 2 short-term luxury suites. Charlotte described it as preserving the shop through modern income. The plan removed most of the collection Hannah has spent years organizing. When I objected, Charlotte said sentiment could not interfere with practical family decisions. Caleb said, "The building needs revenue. The shop produces revenue, not enough for its potential." "My life is not a disappointing version of your potential." Several guests looked down. Grandma continued, "I asked Nathan to help me review my wishes because he listens before speaking. I met with my doctor, accountant, and advisors. Everything is complete." My mother's face drained. "What did you do?" "I removed you from authority over my healthcare, accounts, and property. You will not decide where I live, what happens to the shop, or which grandchild is considered responsible enough to control everyone else." Caleb whispered. "Grandma, you are not being punished for being loved," she said. "You are being prevented from turning love into entitlement." Then she looked at me. "Hannah will direct the Pierce Maritime Archive and Preservation Studio that will operate behind Pier and Pine. She will oversee the family collection, the shop's historical mission, and the restoration fund after I am gone. Professional managers will handle daily finances. No relative receives automatic control because of birth order, marriage, confidence, or pregnancy." Lila flinched. Grandma's expression softened slightly. "The baby is innocent. That is why the baby will never be used to claim this building." My knees weakened. "Grandma, I didn't ask for this." "I know. That is one reason I trust you." My mother found her voice. "You are letting Hannah manipulate you because she repaired some photographs." "No, I am choosing the person who does not confuse control with care." Grandma's voice remained calm. "Hannah listens. She preserves what other people discard. She understands that fragile things need protection, not domination." Charlotte began crying. "I have spent my life helping you, and reminding everyone you helped. I am your daughter. Then act like one." The sentence moved through the room like a clean cut. Caleb stood. "What does this mean for me?" Nathan answered before Grandma could. "It means you keep your career, marriage, home, and adult responsibilities. It means you do not receive a historic building because your mother promised it while the owner was alive. I never asked for the whole building. You asked Hannah last month whether she could catalog the archive before renovation, Grandma said. You wanted her labor before removing her work. Caleb looked toward me. I thought the archive would be moved. Where? I asked. A storage facility. You wanted handwritten family history placed in commercial storage, so tourists could rent the reading room. Do not make it sound heartless. Then explain the heart. He had no answer. My mother stepped toward Grandma. You are humiliating the family. No, Charlotte. I am ending a private system publicly because you used the public room as your weapon. Grandma held out one hand toward me. Come sit beside me. I remained near the aisle with my bag on my shoulder, unsure whether returning to the table would look like victory. Nathan whispered, "That seat was always yours." I walked toward Grandma. He removed my mother's purse from the chair beside her and placed it on a side table. The room noticed. Charlotte noticed most. I sat. Grandma took my hand. My granddaughter did not come here to wash dishes. She came because I wanted the person who saved my memories beside me. Tears arrived before I could stop them. Not loud, not theatrical. They simply fell. Applause began near the back, then spread. Grandma lifted the microphone again. Do not applaud me for correcting something I should have corrected years ago. The applause stopped. That sentence mattered. She was not performing rescue as heroism. She was naming delay. She turned toward Charlotte. You owe Hannah an apology. My mother stared at the guests. This is not the appropriate setting. You selected the setting when you humiliated her through a live microphone. I already said she misunderstood. That is not an apology. My mother's neck flushed. She looked at Stephen. He studied his water glass. She looked at Caleb. He appeared more frightened by the property announcement than by my pain. She looked at her friends. One woman lowered her eyes. The room no longer offered a clean escape. Hannah, Charlotte began, voice tight. I'm sorry you felt embarrassed. Grandma said, no. My mother turned. Excuse me? That sentence makes her emotion the problem. Try again. I watched the woman who had corrected my clothes, posture, career, voice, grief, friends, and facial expressions struggle to produce a sentence that required no control. I am sorry I treated you like staff, she said. I am sorry I dismissed your work, moved your place card, put dishes into your arms, grabbed you, and told you that you did not belong at the table. Her voice broke. I am sorry I made you less important so other people would look more impressive. That last sentence sounded true enough to frighten her. She opened her arms slightly. I stepped back. Pain crossed her face. No, I said. My voice shook but remained audible. You do not get immediate forgiveness because Grandma required a public apology. I am trying. You are cornered. Hannah, I accept that you said the words. I do not accept pretending everything is repaired. The room stayed quiet. My mother lowered her arms. For once, discomfort remained with the person who created it. Grandma nodded. Good. The rest of the birthday dinner did not become joyful again, and I am grateful it did not. Real healing would have been insulted by a sudden montage of laughter. Guests ate lemon tart. Melissa gave a shortened toast. Nathan told a story about Grandma chasing a shoplifter down Thames Street in 1979, and everyone laughed because Grandma confirmed she had thrown a dictionary at him. The slideshow played again from the beginning. This time I remained beside her. When the restored photograph appeared, she whispered, "That young woman had no idea how difficult the next 65 years would become." Would you warn her? I asked. No. I would tell her to buy comfortable shoes, keep better records, and stop assuming difficult people become kind if given enough time. After dinner, I did not wash one dish. The caterers cleared the tables because that was their job. I helped Grandma into Nathan's car. Near the entrance, my mother approached. Her pearls were crooked. Her makeup had faded. Without the room arranged around her, she looked older. Can we talk tomorrow? No. How long do you need? The old Hannah would have offered a date to reduce her anxiety. Until I decide I'm ready. Her mouth tightened. You cannot punish me indefinitely. Space is not punishment. It feels like it. That feeling belongs to you. She looked toward Grandma's car. She has turned you against me. No. She stopped helping you turn me against myself. I left. The next morning, social media began rewriting the dinner. Lila posted a photograph of Grandma blowing out candles with the caption, "Family history, new beginnings," and a night filled with emotion. Caleb shared it. My mother posted nothing for 6 hours, then uploaded a quote. "Sometimes the people you sacrifice for only remember the moment you finally set a boundary." Several friends commented hearts. One wrote, "A mother's work is never appreciated." I did not respond. Nathan sent me screenshots in case posts became more specific. "Do not monitor everything," I told him. "I know. Then why send them?" "Because the family has spent years telling you that you imagined patterns. I want you to have evidence while you learn not to need it." I saved the screenshots in one folder and stopped looking. Caleb texted 2 days later. "We need to talk about Grandma's announcement. She is overwhelmed and you know nothing about operating a commercial property." No greeting. No question about whether I was okay. I replied, "Professional management will handle operations. I am responsible for preservation and mission." He wrote, "That building is the family's largest asset. You cannot treat it like a scrapbook. It belongs to Grandma. Eventually, it belongs to all of us." No. 3 dots appeared and disappeared. "You have always wanted to prove Mom favored me. Mom proved it. This is revenge for the wedding photo." The wedding photo was one piece of information. "You are going to destroy the shop because Grandma is emotional. Do not describe an 88-year-old woman as emotional because she did not choose you. Lila is pregnant. We're trying to build stability for the next generation. Then build it with your work." He called me selfish and stopped responding. My mother contacted my employer. She did not accuse me directly. She asked whether conservators were ethically allowed to accept control over private collections belonging to relatives. The center director called me into her office. I explained the situation. She listened, then said, "Your mother's question was framed as concern, but it contained enough details to identify you." Shame flooded me. "I'm sorry she contacted you. You are not responsible for another adult sending an inappropriate email." She offered to block future contact and document the incident. I accepted. For years, I would have begged her not to make anything formal because formal action felt disloyal. This time, documentation felt like a locked door. Grandma's health remained stable through the summer. We began planning the preservation studio. Pier and Pine Books had 2 underused rooms behind the sales floor and an old storage area with proper potential once moisture problems were corrected. We did not announce a luxury transformation. We repaired electrical wiring, improved climate control, installed archival shelving, added a work table, and created a small consultation area where families could bring damaged documents. Grandma wanted the studio to offer affordable preservation support, not merely serve collectors. "Ordinary people lose history too," she said. "Not every important letter belongs in a museum." I kept my position at the Historical Collections Center 3 days a week and worked at Pier and Pine the other 2. Nathan helped with public programming. Professional accountants handled finances. A longtime shop manager named Denise continued daily operations. Caleb's repeated claim that I planned to run the building alone collapsed because I never planned that. My mother, however, told relatives I had taken advantage of Grandma to create myself a job. Aunt Patricia called and said, "Your mother believes you are separating Eleanor from the family. Grandma attends Sunday lunch with whomever she invites. Charlotte says she is excluded. Grandma asked her to apologize privately and stop discussing the archive." "Has she?" Silence. "No." "Then exclusion may be a consequence, not manipulation." Aunt Patricia sighed. "Why does everything have to become a boundary now?" "Because requests did not work." Thanksgiving was scheduled at my Aunt Margaret's house outside Bristol. Grandma wanted to attend. I planned to spend part of the day with her and Nathan, then eat at a small restaurant. Margaret called 3 weeks before the holiday. "Charlotte is bringing a reconciliation statement. Then I'm not coming. I told her no documents. She will bring one. Probably. Why are you hosting this? Margaret remained quiet. Because the family has split into groups, and I keep thinking one honest meal might stop everyone using separate rooms. A meal cannot make someone honest. No, but you can speak for yourself if you choose. Grandma wanted to go. I am not hiding from my own daughter, she said. You don't have to go because I do. I know. I thought about the birthday hall, the chair, the plate, the apology. Attending Thanksgiving felt dangerous. Staying away felt peaceful, but allowed my mother to describe me without interruption. My therapist asked which outcome mattered more. I want them to stop believing her. Can you control that? No. Then why attend? Because I want to hear whether she has changed. Would a statement brought to Thanksgiving suggest change? No. Then perhaps you want witnesses again. She was right. Part of me wanted another public correction. Anger had not disappeared. I agreed to attend for 2 hours with my own car and no expectation of remaining. Grandma, Nathan, and I arrived together. Margaret's home smelled like turkey, sage, coffee, and the cinnamon candles she lit every year, even though half the family complained of headaches. 21 relatives attended. My place card sat beside Grandma. That should not have felt revolutionary. It did. Caleb and Lila sat across from us. Lila's pregnancy was visible now. My mother wore burgundy and greeted me with a small nod. Stephen hugged me carefully. Let's have a peaceful day. Peaceful for whom? He looked tired. Everyone. That answer is why nothing changed. He moved away. Dinner began politely. Grandma discussed the studio. Denise had helped choose archival shelving. A local veterans group had donated letters for preservation. Caleb asked how much revenue the studio produced. Not everything begins with revenue, Grandma replied. Buildings require money, he said. So do pregnancies, she answered. You are not asking Lila's child to prove profitability. Lila looked offended. That's different. Every family member believes his need is different. My mother changed the subject. After dessert, she brought out a cream folder. Margaret closed her eyes. Charlotte, this will take 5 minutes. You promised. I promise no argument. This prevents one. She distributed pages. The title read, Pierce Family Healing Statement. The first paragraph said Grandma's birthday had become emotionally overwhelming and that words spoken under stress had created misunderstandings. The second said Charlotte regretted delegating tasks without communicating appreciation. The third said I had reacted by isolating Grandma, damaging Charlotte's reputation, and accepting a role beyond my business experience. The fourth proposed shared family oversight of Pier and Pine, with Caleb managing property strategy, me handling archive work, Nathan coordinating programs, and Charlotte representing Grandma's wishes during medical decisions. They had restored the original power structure using gentler language. The fifth required me to post publicly that my mother never intended to humiliate me, and that social media speculation about financial manipulation was false. Nobody had publicly accused her by name. The sixth said all family members would resume holidays, and Grandma would reconsider recent decisions made during heightened emotion. Signature lines waited for Grandma, Charlotte, Caleb, Nathan, and me. No, I said. Charlotte remained calm. You have not read the entire plan. You placed yourself back into Grandma's healthcare, Caleb into the building, and me into unpaid archive labor. Unpaid, Caleb said. You already have a museum salary. The studio is professional work. For the family, your real estate commissions are professional work. Would you sell the building without payment because we share blood? That is completely different. Of course, Charlotte said. This is not about money. It is about making sure everyone contributes according to strength. You mean Caleb leads and I work. You prefer the work. Preference does not remove authority. You do not have management training. Neither does Caleb in books, archives, historic preservation, retail operations, or nonprofit programming. He understands property value. Grandma placed her fork down. The property is not for sale. Caleb looked at her. Nobody said sale. You continue presenting market potential as though I asked, Charlotte said. Mother, we are trying to protect your legacy. By removing what the building contains, by ensuring it survives. It survived hurricanes, recessions, widowhood, and raising you. The room became quiet. My mother turned toward me. Hannah, do you understand what your behavior has done? Friends ask whether I abused you. People at church look at me differently. Lila's family believes Caleb attempted to steal property. Did you tell people I was invited to wash dishes? That was one sentence said under stress. You repeated it through a microphone. Because you were making a scene. I was leaving. Exactly. You always leave when corrected. I felt the old heat rise. Nathan said, Charlotte, stop. No. Everyone treats Hannah like she is fragile, but she has controlled this family for months, through silence. I almost laughed. I was told silence was my most useful quality. You know what I mean. I know silence became unacceptable when it stopped serving you. Lila placed one hand on the document. Can we be practical? Caleb and I are expecting a child. Pier Pine could create significant income through 2 luxury suites and private events. That income could protect Grandma, the archive, and future generations. Your child does not own Grandma's building, I said. Her face hardened. I didn't say that. You used the pregnancy to explain urgency. Caleb said, we are thinking generationally. You are thinking personally with generational vocabulary. He pushed back his chair. This is why no one can talk to you. You turn everything into some perfect sentence. Then answer imperfectly. Why should you control a building you ignored until property values rose? I did not ignore it. When did you last work 1 full day in the shop? That is not my role. Exactly. My role would be strategy. Strategy that removes the archive. Moves it. To storage. Temporarily. Grandma lifted one hand. Enough. She looked at Charlotte. Did you write this statement? With input. From whom? Family. Which family? Charlotte glanced at Caleb and Lila. Stephen studied his plate. Why is Hannah required to say you never intended humiliation? Grandma asked. Because I didn't. What did you intend when you moved her seat? She was coordinating. What did you intend when you told friends she belonged in the basement? My mother's face changed. You heard that? Linda told me. One of Charlotte's friends had finally chosen discomfort over loyalty. What did you intend when you contacted Hannah's employer? Charlotte looked at me, surprised I knew. I asked an ethical question. You attempted to make her work feel unsafe after losing control at home. That is not fair. Truth often feels unfair to someone accustomed to editing it. My mother began crying. Nothing I do is good enough now. I watched the tears and felt the familiar alarm. Comfort her. Reduce the consequence. Accept the statement partly. Offer another chance quickly. I let the alarm ring without obeying it. What have you done to change? I asked. I apologized. Because Grandma required it. I gave you space. You contacted my employer. I was worried about undue influence. You posted about ungrateful children. I never named you. You used enough details that family friends did. So I am not allowed feelings? You are allowed feelings. You are not allowed to use them as weapons and call the result private. Charlotte's voice sharpened. I am your mother. Then why has being your daughter always felt like employment? Silence. I continued before fear closed my throat. When Caleb needed money, you called me. When his wedding had problems, you called me. When Grandma's hall deposit was late, I paid it. When family photographs needed restoration, I did it. When anyone needed invitations, documents, research, errands, rides, or emotional cleanup, I was family. When people sat down, toasted, inherited, appeared in photographs, and received praise, I became support staff. My mother whispered, "You always preferred working quietly." I preferred quiet. I did not prefer erasure. Caleb said, "Nobody erased you." I removed my phone and opened the wedding photograph. I placed it beside his plate. Who is missing? His jaw tightened. That was Lila's family decision. Lila replied. The photographer selected it. You posted the caption, "Everyone who built this family." It was just a caption. I paid the florist whose work surrounds you. Caleb looked at me. Here we go with the 12,000 again. You never repaid it. You said it was a gift. I said we would discuss repayment after the wedding. You stopped answering. You could afford it. The sentence entered the room. My mother closed her eyes. Caleb realized too late. That is the system, I said. Anything I can afford becomes something you deserve. Any pain I can survive becomes acceptable. Grandma reached for my hand. I did not need rescuing, but the touch reminded me I was not alone. Charlotte pushed the statement toward me. Sign the apology section. We can discuss the rest later. No. Hannah, this family will never heal if you refuse compromise. Compromise is not me denying what happened so you regain control. What do you want? The question sounded desperate. For years, she assumed every boundary concealed a demand she could negotiate. I want no role in your life that requires me to become smaller. That is vague. Then here is specific. You will not contact my employer. You will not discuss my mental health, career, finances, or relationship with grandma publicly or through relatives. You will not assign me tasks at family events. You will ask before requesting professional work. Caleb will communicate with me only about grandma's immediate needs, not the building, money, property, weddings, or business. Lila will not use the baby as a reason I owe access or resources. Stephen will not carry messages. I will attend events only when I choose. I will leave when disrespected. I will not sign this. Charlotte looked at Grandma. Are you allowing this? Grandma's eyes hardened. Hannah does not require my permission to describe her boundaries. You are choosing her over your own daughter. No, I am choosing not to sacrifice one woman to protect another from consequences. Caleb stood. If Hannah keeps control, I want a formal accounting of the building. You are entitled to nothing, Grandma said. I am family, so is she. You treated family like a ranking system and became surprised when the person below you stopped carrying the ladder. Nathan almost smiled. Caleb looked toward Lila. We're leaving. Lila gathered her coat. Before turning away, she said to me, I hope you're happy when the baby grows up without knowing you. The room went still. Charlotte whispered, Lila. I looked at her stomach, then her face. A child should never be used to purchase property, free labor, forgiveness, or obedience. If you choose distance, that is your decision. Do not call it mine. Caleb opened his mouth. Grandma struck her cane once against the floor. Leave before you say something your child will be ashamed to hear later. They left. My mother remained seated, crying quietly. Stephen touched her shoulder. Margaret began clearing coffee cups until Grandma said, Stop. Sit down. We are not using work to avoid feeling. Margaret sat. I picked up the healing statement, tore only the signature page through my name, and placed the two pieces beside my plate. I am not signing away the truth so the family can look intact, Charlotte said. Then what happens to us? Distance. Forever? I do not know. You cannot leave me uncertain. You left me uncertain about my place for 31 years. She covered her mouth. I stood. I am taking Grandma home. Can I call you at Christmas? No. Send one letter after 3 months if it contains no excuses, no requests, and no messages from Caleb. How am I supposed to know what to say? Tell the truth without arranging it around the response you want. Grandma rose slowly. Nathan helped with her coat. Before leaving, she looked at Charlotte. I love you. Love is not a vote for access. We left. Thanksgiving night, I sat with Grandma and Nathan in the apartment above Pier Pine. We ate leftover apple pie because Margaret had packed it without using food as emotional negotiation. Grandma looked tired. Did I create this by announcing everything publicly at my birthday? She asked. Mom created it over years. That is not the whole answer. She had always required accuracy, even when accuracy complicated gratitude. The public announcement gave me protection, I said. It also gave me the satisfaction of watching her lose the room. Did you enjoy it? Partly. Good to admit. Does that make it wrong? No, it makes you human. Do not build your identity around being the perfect injured person. That becomes another prison. Nathan raised his coffee. To imperfect boundaries. Grandma lifted her tea. To better timing. I laughed. The following months were quiet. Caleb sent 2 angry emails about the shop, then stopped after professional management informed him all questions required Grandma's approval. Lila posted, quote, graphics about protecting unborn children from toxic relatives. I did not respond. Their daughter, Sophie, was born in March. I learned through Grandma. I sent one card addressed to the baby. Welcome to the world. You are loved without obligation. No money, no property language, no request to visit. Caleb returned the card unopened. Grandma kept a photograph of Sophie on her desk anyway. The child did nothing, she said. Charlotte sent her letter after 4 months. 6 pages. The first page described raising 2 children alone after divorce. The second explained fear, financial pressure, and the difficulty of managing Grandma's stubbornness. I nearly stopped reading. The third page changed. I favored Caleb because his dependence made me feel necessary. Hannah's competence made me feel judged. When she succeeded quietly, I experienced it as rejection because she did not need me to enter the room. I kept assigning her work because usefulness gave me access to her without requiring me to become emotionally safe. I read that sentence twice. She admitted the wedding photograph. I knew Hannah was excluded. I told myself she preferred the edge because admitting the truth would have required me to challenge Lila's family and disappoint Caleb. She admitted the birthday seating. I moved her place card because Eleanor's attention toward Hannah made me feel replaced by my own mother. She admitted the dishes. I wanted Hannah back in the role I understood. When she stood near the head table, I felt she was exposing me simply by being visible. She admitted contacting my employer. I wanted someone outside the family to question her judgment because the family had stopped questioning it. No apology can undo such sentences. Honest sentences can still create ground where truth stands. The letter ended. I am sorry. I want contact, but I understand wanting something does not entitle me to receive it. I did not answer for 2 months. Then I wrote, I believe the letter contains truth. I am not ready to meet. You may write again in 6 months. Do not contact my employer, Caleb, Lila, Grandma, or other relatives to influence my response. She replied, understood. She obeyed. That was the first change I trusted. Pier Pine's preservation studio opened 8 months after the birthday dinner. We named it the Eleanor Pierce Maritime Memory Room, though Grandma complained her name sounded like she was already dead. Families brought old immigration papers, military letters, recipes, photographs, shipyard records, and diaries damaged by basements or storms. We charged according to means and partnered with local schools. I continued at the historical center part-time. Denise managed the shop. Nathan organized readings. Grandma sat behind the front counter 3 afternoons a week and corrected customers who called her fragile. Opening day was crowded but not glamorous. No ribbon wall, influencer backdrop, or champagne sponsor. We served coffee, lemon cookies, and stories. Caleb sent flowers without a note. I placed them near the register. A gift does not require interpretation when the giver provides none. Charlotte arrived 10 minutes before closing carrying a cardboard portfolio. Can I come in? She asked. For 10 minutes. She placed the portfolio on the work table. Inside were my architecture drawings from college. Some were bent. One had a coffee stain. I believed she had thrown them away. Why do you have these? I kept them. Why? Her eyes filled. Because I knew they mattered, even while telling people they didn't. That is not an answer. I think I wanted control over the evidence that you had been talented before choosing a life I could dismiss. The honesty was ugly and useful. Why bring them now? Because they belong to you. No request followed. I examined the drawings. My old waterfront library concept looked both younger and more ambitious than I remembered. Thank you, Charlotte nodded. Grandma said the studio may need volunteers cataloging donations. I looked toward Grandma. She suddenly found the receipt drawer fascinating. Did you ask her? I asked whether there was work I could do without being in charge. This is not a family favor. I understand. You follow Denise's schedule. You do not correct my labels, criticize customers, discuss private donations, photograph materials, or tell people you helped create the studio. You leave if you speak disrespectfully to me or anyone here. A year earlier, she would have called the conditions humiliating. That evening, she said, "Okay." I handed her cotton gloves and a box of photo sleeves. My mother spent 45 minutes labeling donated postcards under my instructions. I watched her once and felt something close to revenge. Then I let the feeling pass. Her working beneath my authority was not the point. The point was that my authority no longer depended on her recognizing it. She volunteered twice a month. Sometimes she became defensive when corrected. I ended the session once after she told a customer a damaged photograph should have been stored properly. "But it's true," she said. "People bring damaged things here because they need help, not shame." I was only... The session is over. Her face tightened. Then she removed her gloves, said goodbye, and left. She returned 2 weeks later and apologized to the customer by letter without asking me to deliver forgiveness. Change arrived in behavior, not dramatic speeches. Caleb took longer. His real estate income declined after the market slowed. The Range Rover disappeared. He and Lila moved to a smaller house after admitting their expenses had exceeded stable income. Their marriage became strained around money and family expectations. Grandma did not rescue them. I did not rescue them. Charlotte contributed one modest amount towards Sophie's medical bill after asking Grandma whether help would undermine boundaries. Grandma said, "Helping a child is not the same as funding a lifestyle." Sophie was 2 when Caleb contacted me without mentioning the building. "She asks about the bookstore because Grandma shows her photographs," he wrote. "Would you be comfortable with us bringing her for 1 hour when the shop is quiet?" I waited. The old system would have used the child as an immediate bridge. "You and Lila may bring her Saturday from 4 to 5. No property discussion, no photographs posted. If either of you insults me or pressures Grandma, the visit ends," he replied. "Understood." They arrived on time. Sophie had dark curls and serious eyes. She walked directly toward the children's shelf. Grandma cried when she saw her. Lila remained polite and distant. Caleb looked around the shop with an expression I could not read. Near closing, he approached the archive room door. "Can I see it?" "From here." He remained outside. "It looks good. Thank you. I thought you would turn the whole place into a museum." "It remains a bookstore. The suites might have made more money." "Probably." He almost smiled. "You haven't changed your mind." "No." "Do you hate me?" "No." "Did you?" "Sometimes." "Do you forgive me?" "Partly." "Does that mean I will ever have a role here?" "No." His face tightened, then relaxed. "Right. Forgiveness is not a job offer." "I know." "Do you?" "I'm learning." He apologized months later in a letter. "I treated your competence like a service available to the family. I accepted wedding money, archive work, property research, and emotional labor, then allowed Leela's family to exclude you because I wanted their approval. I believed Mom's favoritism proved I was more capable. When Grandma chose you, I experienced accuracy as theft." He admitted returning Sophie's card. "I used my daughter to punish you because I knew you cared." "I am ashamed." No request followed. Our relationship remained limited. Occasional shop visits, birthday messages. No money, no property, no professional work. When he asked once whether I could restore a document for a client, I sent the studio's fee schedule. He paid the full amount. That ordinary transaction felt more respectful than every family favor before it. Grandma lived another 6 years. She remained mentally sharp and physically stubborn until the final year, when congestive heart failure reduced her world. Charlotte helped with appointments after asking permission. I remained the primary family representative, But professionals handled most medical coordination. Caleb visited without discussing inheritance. Nathan brought audiobooks. Grandma stayed in her apartment above Pier and Pine as long as safely possible, then moved into a small assisted living residence near the harbor. Charlotte cried that the family should care for her at home. Grandma said, "Care is not measured by which woman gives up her life fastest." We organized visits, hired support, and allowed professionals to do work they were trained to do. The old family would have assigned everything to me and praised my strength. The new arrangement distributed care without turning sacrifice into proof of love. 2 weeks before Grandma died, she asked me to bring the restored portrait from her birthday. I placed it beside the window. "She looks brave," I said. "She was terrified," Grandma replied. People confuse the face you make while surviving with how you feel. Did you regret standing up that night? I regretted waiting until 88. Would Mom have changed sooner? Maybe. Maybe she would have left. Delay does not guarantee mercy. It only guarantees delay. She looked toward me. Do not preserve every relationship simply because you know how to repair paper. That sounds targeted. You have a professional disease. What should I preserve? Whatever can be handled without destroying you. She died peacefully on a rainy Thursday morning with Charlotte, Nathan, and me beside her. Caleb arrived 20 minutes later and cried against the hallway wall. At the funeral, nobody argued about the shop. Grandma had made every decision clear. Pier and Pine continued under professional management. The archive studio remained my responsibility. Caleb received a financial gift, and several family objects Grandma selected specifically for him. Charlotte received her mother's jewelry, letters, and lifetime access to the apartment's reading room when visiting. Nathan received part of the collection related to public libraries. Sophie received an education fund. I received no palace, unlimited fortune, or dramatic crown. I received stewardship of the history Grandma trusted me to protect. The difference between inheritance and entitlement is whether the gift arrives as responsibility or imagined proof of superiority. After the funeral, Charlotte asked, "Do you think she forgave me?" Ask what she trusted you to do. That is not the same. No. Did she love me? Yes. Even after everything, love survived. Access changed. Charlotte nodded. She had learned enough to hear both. 3 years after Grandma's death, Pier and Pine celebrated its 60th anniversary. The preservation studio had helped save more than 900 family documents and photographs. We hosted school groups, veterans, fishermen, immigrants, historians, and ordinary residents carrying boxes from attics. My architecture drawings hung in a private office, not because I wanted to reopen the career, but because I no longer needed to hide the person I had been before it ended. One design eventually inspired a small renovation to the reading room. A curved shelf followed the harbor line from my old waterfront library concept. When Charlotte noticed, she touched the wood and said, "You used it. Part of it. Does that mean the professor didn't take everything?" "He never owned what I became," she cried quietly. I did not comfort her immediately. Then I offered tea. Boundaries did not require withholding every kindness. They required kindness, no longer being used to erase accountability. Last Thanksgiving, 12 years after the birthday dinner, I hosted 14 people in the reading room after the shop closed. Nathan and his husband. Caleb, Lila, and Sophie. Charlotte and Stephen. Denise. Several friends from the museum. No head table. No assigned roles. Everyone brought food or paid toward catering. I did not create the entire evening alone. Charlotte arrived early and asked, "What would be helpful?" Not, "What needs fixing?" Not, "Where should Hannah work?" I said, "Place water glasses." She did. Caleb carried chairs. Lila brought pie. Sophie, now 12, helped me set up a small display of Grandma's birthday portrait and several restored letters. "Was this the party where Grandma defended you?" she asked. The family had told her an age-appropriate version. Yes. "Did my dad really try to turn the bookstore into hotel rooms?" Caleb groaned from across the room. "Your aunt enjoys historical accuracy." "Did you?" Sophie asked him. Caleb walked over. I thought money was the only way to prove an old place should survive. Was Aunt Hannah mad? Very. Are you still mad? She asked me. Sometimes, but you invited him. Being invited does not mean the past disappeared. It means the present is safe enough for dinner. Sophie considered that. Families are complicated. Excellent historical conclusion. During the meal, Charlotte sat across from me. No one asked me to refill glasses. No one called me sensitive. When Denise praised the studio, my mother said, "Hannah built something extraordinary." She did not add that she had helped. She did not explain my career through failure. She allowed the sentence to remain mine. After dessert, Nathan suggested a photograph. My body still noticed family photo. Juanlila asked, "Private or postable?" "Private." People chose where to stand. Charlotte remained near the edge until Sophie pulled her closer. Caleb stood beside Lila. Nathan stood beside me. No one arranged a core family. No one cropped anyone. The first photograph was too dark. The second caught Stephen blinking. In the third, Charlotte was laughing because Sophie had whispered something inappropriate. We kept the third. Later, while washing cups, my mother approached carefully. "Can I ask something?" "Yes." "Do you forgive me?" I set down the towel. "Enough to have you here." "Not completely?" "Forgiveness is not one locked room." "Do you trust me?" "In some rooms." Her eyes filled, but she did not turn the answer into an accusation. "Which rooms?" "This one, the shop during volunteer hours, a phone call that contains no hidden task, dinner when no one's dignity is being negotiated." "And the others?" "My career decisions, the archive, my finances, my relationship with Caleb, my mental health. Those remain mine." She nodded. "I wish I had been safer sooner." "So do I." "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Did you always?" "Yes." "Even when you left the birthday dinner?" "I almost left because I loved myself less than I needed to." Grandma helped me correct that. Charlotte looked toward the portrait. "She chose you. She chose to trust me with certain things. That was not a vote against your existence. It felt like one." "I know. I used to think any attention you received was something taken from me." "I know. Why didn't you tell me?" "I did in smaller ways." "You called it sensitivity." She accepted the answer. "That was as close to peace as we needed." People often tell this story as though Grandma publicly defeating my mother was the victory. The 88-year-old woman stands, takes the microphone, exposes the manipulation, changes the future of the family business, and places the humiliated granddaughter at the head table. That is satisfying. It is also incomplete. The strongest moment came later, when my mother asked to talk the next morning and I said no. Public rescue gave me protection. My own boundary gave me freedom. If I had accepted immediate reconciliation, the family would have treated the apology as a receipt proving the debt was paid. My mother would have hugged me, cried, posted a photograph, and slowly returned me to the kitchen at the next emergency. Change required time in which my absence could not be solved through performance. Caleb needed to build a life without treating the shop as future compensation. Lila needed to learn that pregnancy and children do not create authority over relatives. Charlotte needed to experience no as information instead of abandonment. I needed to stop treating usefulness as the admission price for family. My mother had been correct about one thing, though not in the way she intended. I was comfortable behind the scenes. Behind the scenes contained work I loved, details I understood, and fewer people competing for attention. The harm was not that I preferred quiet work. The harm was that my family used the preference to deny me visibility, authority, rest, gratitude, and a chair. There is a difference between choosing service and being assigned servitude. There is a difference between humility and erasure. There is a difference between helping because you love someone and helping because you fear what happens when you stop. I had confused those differences for years. Grandma did not make me important at her birthday dinner. She revealed that I had been important before anyone applauded. The restored photographs, letters, and archive did not create my worth. Neither did the preservation studio, museum job, inheritance, authority, or public defense. Those things exposed how little my family had been willing to see. I would still have deserved respect if I had arrived with nothing, paid no deposit, restored no photograph, and held no future role. My mother's cruelty would have remained cruelty even without Grandma's folder. That lesson took longer because revenge stories often imply the mistreated person earns dignity through a hidden achievement. Real dignity does not require a reveal. Quiet daughters do not owe secret empires. Children who leave prestigious programs do not owe replacement careers impressive enough to silence mockery. Family members assigned to the kitchen do not need to prove they built the ballroom before saying, "Do not speak to me that way." Self-worth began when I stopped presenting evidence and treated my own pain as sufficient information. I still restore damaged things. Some return almost completely, some keep stains, some lose corners. Some can be stabilized but never folded again. The goal is not making damage invisible. The goal is preventing further loss while allowing the object to remain truthful. My relationship with Charlotte became like that. Preserved, limited, visibly repaired. Not new, not erased. Strong enough for certain handling, too fragile for others. Caleb and I became cordial siblings rather than automatic partners. Lila learned to ask. Sophie grew up knowing no adult could use her affection as payment. Nathan remained the cousin who stepped into the hallway when everyone else heard silence and called it normal. Grandma's photograph still hangs behind the preservation desk. She stands near the harbor at 23, chin lifted, wind pulling at her hair. Beneath it is a small plaque containing one sentence from her birthday speech. History is protected by the person patient enough to handle fragile things with respect. Visitors assume she meant documents. I know she meant people too. So here is the question I would ask anyone listening, because families still disagree about whether I was wise to allow my mother and brother back into limited parts of my life. If your mother publicly treated you like hired help, erased years of your work, tried to place your favored sibling in control of a family legacy, contacted your employer after losing authority, and only began changing after an elderly relative exposed everything in front of witnesses, but then spent years accepting boundaries, apologizing without demanding access, and behaving differently, would you give her a carefully limited place at your table, or would the moment she told you to wash dishes be the moment the family door closed forever?